daughters to publicly trash. I don't know. Fuck you, Dad. All right. I just walked into the show, so I don't quite know what the situation is, but it feels weird. It's got a little weirder. I don't know, but it seems like you guys are having a good time. You've seen hilarious comics. You've laughed a lot. Yeah. So let's try something different. Spice it up a little bit, you know. I'm just going to talk about where I'm at, and we'll see if we can figure some shit out collectively. So here, the real reason I'm here right now, why am I here, is a question you guys are going to be asking yourself probably the next few minutes. But the real reason is, so I had my heart broken 19 years ago by Lindsay, that whore. My name is, all right. I can't just write off Vince's coattails for the rest of this time. But I had my heart broken 19 years ago, and after that, I developed very severe obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't know if anyone has OCD. If you do, just raise your hand 6 times. So yeah, and basically, the OCD was really bad. For many years, I tried all sorts of medications, I saw therapists, nothing helped. And then I read a scientific study where they found that hallucinogenic mushrooms could potentially treat OCD. So I tried to cure myself, and this is the result. No, actually, I have a solo show about this called The Mushroom Cure, the true story of how I treated my OCD with psychedelics. And whenever I tell people about the show, they're always like, "Did it work? Did you cure yourself?" And I'm like, just buy tickets, you know? That's the whole point of the show. I wrote a show, buy tickets. How hard is that? And it is infuriating to me. Some of the excuses people come up with why they shouldn't have to pay for tickets. So I was talking to a woman the other day. I told her, she was like, "Did it help you?" And I'm like, "Buy tickets." And you're not going to believe it. It was the lamest excuse what this woman said. She said, "But I'm your mother. I'm just concerned about you." And I gave her a discount code. I don't know what more she wants. But it did help. I'm not going to tell you about the show. I will say I once took a huge dose of mushrooms about 2 hours ago, and it did help. The OCD is significantly better, but the challenge I've had in recent years is I've had a lot of trouble opening my heart and like really being in a deep relationship with a woman. I think because that's when the OCD started. And so most relationships I've had, almost all the relationships I've had, have been these more superficial relationships, like friends with benefits, except we're not really friends, you know? I don't dislike them, it's just we wouldn't be hanging out were it not for the benefits, basically. It's less friends with benefits, it's more like we're like co-workers on a shared project, you know? The project is mutually assured orgasms, MAOs, which the UN is trying to ban. I'm not in favor of that. But yet, it's been a source of real pain in my life where I feel like I want a deep relationship, but I have these more superficial relationships. And, and I've tried different ways. Generally, most women I've met at shows. So I don't know which one of you is going to, you can decide amongst yourselves. I did try online dating briefly, but I had issues with it. There were many beautiful women, but the issues I had was the answers people gave to the questions. Like one of the most common prompts is, "I'm looking for." And I would say, like 40% of women, their answer is, "My partner in crime." And I get what that captures, the idea that like you have each other's backs no matter what, and that is what I want. But it's just such a cliche. Like, I feel like there's no way my partner in crime would ever use the phrase partner in crime. And whenever I see a woman who has that answer, I want to send her a message. I haven't done it yet, but this is the message I want to say. Listen, I know a liquor store in the Bronx. Thursday mornings, 9 a.m. The armored truck comes to take the money from the safe. I have 2 untraceable handguns. Need a getaway driver. Looking for my partner in crime. I'm pedantic about it. I know this. Another prompt is, together we could, and I saw a woman who, it looked like we'd be a good match, but her answer was, together we could do the impossible. No, actually that's the definition of impossible. The thing we can't do. We can do the improbable. I would even accept together we can do anything. Like, clearly not true, but not a logical fallacy, but we can't do the impossible. Anyway, she never responded to my message. And it's probably the best. So yeah, I mean, I had more of these coworkers on a shared project, but no real significant relationships. But then, as Zach mentioned, I was on the West Coast. I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I don't know if you guys know the energy in the San Francisco Bay Area, but the energy there is a lot of people using the word energy. It's that sort of, yeah. Like a fun drinking game you can play in the San Francisco Bay Area is every time you hear someone say the word manifest, you take a kombucha shot. And so I was thinking about this, about manifestation, when I took mushrooms out there. Which I have to say, I much prefer taking mushrooms in San Francisco than New York. Because in New York, whenever I take mushrooms, I get paranoid. I'm like, shit, what if I run into a cop here? Whereas in San Francisco, if I run into a cop on mushrooms, I can just be like, dude, I am really high on mushrooms right now. And the cop would be like, dude, me too. Fuck, dude, I can't arrest you because we're all one. I'd just be arresting myself. So I took mushrooms there, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about the fact that I feel like I want a deep relationship. I really want to open my heart to someone. I want a deep connection, but I have these more superficial relationships, and I realized that, fuck it, if I want a deep relationship, I'm going to have to manifest it. And I decided, I made a decision on mushrooms, which is the best way to make life choices, that I was going to cut off things with like my coworkers on a shared project, friends with benefits, and I wasn't going to settle for less than a significant relationship. And a few days later, I walked into this party, and I saw this woman there, who we actually I'd seen her before. We actually met on this new dating app, Zoom, where she works for a psychedelic organization that was helping promote my show, The Mushroom Cure. So we had a Zoom call like a week before my mushroom trip. I know the chronology is all over the place, but time is an illusion. So it is. Maybe we'll talk more about that. So I saw her on the Zoom call. Didn't know anything about her. I logged into the Zoom call and I saw her, and very beautiful. Like beautiful in a way that is kind of upsetting, because whenever I see a really beautiful woman, I have a similar reaction to when I see like a real estate listing for an amazing like $20 million apartment. You know, it's like, oh, that looks incredible, but I'm never gonna be inside of that, so fuck it. It's just it's like a little bit of bitterness there. So I registered this woman, her name is on the Zoom call, very beautiful, and then she started talking, and I was very impressed. Like she was super poised, super intelligent, very in control of the call, like just very professional. And then about 10 minutes into the call, she did something I've never seen anyone do before on a Zoom call. She just starts rolling a joint. And what impressed me about it wasn't just that she did it, but I think most people, when we do something that kind of violates social convention, we acknowledge it, because we don't want people to think like poorly of us. So I feel like most people doing that would have been like, oh, I hope you don't mind, or make a joke, you know, like, oh, it's 4:20 somewhere. It was 10 a.m. by the way. But she didn't acknowledge that at all. She's just looking straight into the webcam, talking about like cross-platform affiliate links, and I'm like, that's weed she's sprinkling into that joint. I was very impressed by it. It was kind of like, it was sort of like a power move, it felt to me. Like she was almost daring me to say something. So I was very intrigued by her. And then I had this mushroom trip. Go to this party, I see her there, and immediately we get into a very intense conversation about free will. Now, I'm sure most of the other comments have talked about free will tonight, but I'll share my opinion. So I believe free will exists. Now, I acknowledge the fact that physicists say free will doesn't exist, but I believe it exists because it feels to me like I have free will, and also because I have no respect for physicists. I don't respect them at all. They're full of shit, man. They're like, no, physics has gotten totally, so physics used to be a vital branch of human knowledge. They were making a lot of really useful discoveries until about 40, 50 years ago. I don't have time for this whole lecture, but basically, contemporary physics they use these particle accelerators that generate a huge amount of data, and they can kind of find whatever they want in that data. Like you can't empirically validate their discoveries. And physicists, they're not dealing with the real issues, the real problems, the real parameters of our existence, like time. Physicists don't understand time at all. They don't understand it at all, and they refuse to acknowledge this. Physicists, they're very arrogant, and it upsets me. It really does, to the point that I've actually started protesting in front of the Columbia University Physics Department about this. I have. I was out there yesterday leading a big protest. What do we want? The acknowledgement that time is an illusion. When do we want it? Because I'll tell you a secret, guys. It's now. It's now. This is the only thing that's real. It's now. The universe is 13.7 billion years old, and this is the only moment that actually exists, which puts a lot of pressure on this set. So, let's stay focused, Adam. Stay focused. Okay. So yeah, so I was arguing for free will, but this woman, Anna, was arguing against free will. And she was citing all these philosophers, like Schopenhauer says this, Plato says that. I was very impressed by her. But then I started seeing some red flags. Actually, I didn't see them. She showed me these red flags. It was like she planted these red flags in the ground, put a barbed wire fence around them, and shined a spotlight on them, right enough to disrupt bird migration patterns. She wanted me to see this stuff. And the red flags were basically, so she got out of a serious relationship a year and a half before. And since then, her pattern has been she'll meet a dude, like be pretty excited about him, and then exactly 3 to 4 weeks into the relationship, find some tiny flaw and be utterly repulsed and cut him out of her life completely. And when she told this to me, I related, because this is what I've done. This is why I haven't been able to have a deep relationship, is finding the reasons why, oh, they're not the right person, they're not good enough, there's some trivial flaw. And so I told her this, and she was like, yeah, that resonates. And I think if I'd met her before this mushroom trip, I would have just gone for her, because she's hot and she's smart. But because I had this trip, I was very clear. I was like, no, she's not at a place where she wants a deep relationship. I know I want a deep relationship, so I'm not going to pursue this. I did get her number. But I was like, and I told her, I was like, I think we're looking for different things. And so we hung out once, and we acknowledged, we're like, yeah, there is an attraction here, but we're not looking for the same thing. And then we hung out one more time, and we almost didn't have sex. We came really close to not. We spent about 45 minutes discussing why we shouldn't have sex. And then because we wanted different things, and then we had sex. And honestly, I kind of regretted it, because the sex was not that good. I think part of it is we were using condoms, which are just an affront to, oh God, it's crazy to me that in 2022 we're talking about colonizing Mars, but we can't come up with a better solution to the problem of sexually transmitted diseases in pregnancy than wrapping our genitals in plastic. It's fucking barbaric. And the reason it's so upsetting to me is because I feel like there's got to be a better solution. Like, I don't know, maybe like a spray-on condom. I don't have the R&D. We should put physicists to work on this. Actually, make them figure this shit out instead of bullshitting that they understand time when they don't understand time. It's very convenient when time is an illusion. You can be like, no, I lasted for 4 hours in bed. No, but what upsets me about condoms is we're supposedly a secular nation, we're supposedly an advanced nation, but the reason we don't have better condoms is because sex is still a taboo in this country. We still have puritanical roots, and the fact that no one has come up with a better condom, it just flies in the face of the fact that we're supposedly advanced, we have freedom to choose things. It's complete and total bullshit. It undercuts our humanity. Anyway, this is the speech I give a woman before sex, and so but it didn't work that night, and we used condoms. The sex wasn't that good. And I don't think I would have seen her again, or I think, once you've had sex with someone, you want to hang with them at least one more time, right? But I think it wouldn't have gone anywhere if it had been in New York. But the thing about the San Francisco Bay Area is there's no rectangles there. Because this city, it's a fucking rectangular city. We live in rectangles, we look out rectangular windows on other rectangles, and we're, then computer screen rectangles, and then fucking, I don't have it on me, Satan's rectangle, the most insidious rectangle of all. And rectangles are very unnatural, and I think if you just spend all your time looking at like linear right angles, you think in a very kind of rigid way. That's what I find. Whereas in San Francisco, there's mountains and there's oceans and there's curves. And so for our next date, we went hiking. And I just felt much more open and much less judgmental. And yeah, we had an amazing time. And from then on, we were just in like, the relationship took off really quickly. And we spent a ton of time together for 3 months in the Bay Area and like really fell for each other. And I was like, man, I'm fucking good at this manifestation shit. Just knocking it out. Thanks to mushrooms. So she's Greek. She lives in San Francisco, but she's Greek. And so she went home to Greece for the summer, but she invited me to visit her. And I had some hesitation, just because I felt like things were so good in San Francisco, and my OCD is better, but I like feeling in control of my environment. And I knew Greece was going to be, we're going to be with her family, but whatever, I went. And I don't know if anyone has been to Athens in August, but the temperature, it was 36 degrees Celsius, which, I'm not a meteorologist, but I think that equates to about 220 degrees Fahrenheit. It was just this intense, and there was a sonic component to the heat. There were the cicadas, like the hotter it got, the louder, just this and the first thing, so she picks me up at the airport, we go to her house, she introduces me to her father, and I'm like, hi, I'm Adam. He's like, hi, I'm Giannis. And I said, how are you? Which is a standard question. And he said, I am depressed. And immediately I kind of fell in love with this guy. He gave an honest answer, right? I hate when people ask me that question, because you're supposed to bullshit. You're supposed to be like, oh, I'm doing fine. Who the fuck is fine? How can you be fine? You're literally destroying the planet. Every movie is a remake of another movie. It's like extra Russian dolls of filmmaking. Now, who is fine? When people ask me how I'm doing, I do answer that question honestly. Someone actually asked me a couple of days ago, and I told them, I was like, basically, I feel like I'm walking over a very narrow, rickety footbridge, suspended over just an abyss. There's just darkness below me. I can't even see the bottom, but I do feel like I'm moving forward on the bridge. I feel like I'm growing, I'm learning, I'm making progress. I'm working on myself. But I've also felt that way for a long time, and every time I look down, the abyss is still there. So maybe this isn't a bridge, maybe it's just some sort of cosmic hamster wheel, and I'm just going around and around and around and around. And listen, I'm not suicidal. I mean, life is too wondrous and amazing and painful, but I don't think I'd ever kill myself. But yeah, I'm glad suicide is an option in a situation. And they were like, we value you as a Verizon customer. So I upgraded, guys. I upgraded, bigger screen now. Everything's fine, guys. Everything's fine. I'm fine now. I'm totally fine. Yeah. Get my pictures on my screen. So when Giannis, her father, says he's depressed, I'm like, good, let's get into it. Why are you depressed? And he said, I'm not sure. Maybe because it's near the end. And I said, of life? Meaning of your life, but that felt a little rude. So I just said, of life? And he said, yes, that too. This is my introduction. And then so anyway, it was fucking hot. I was like, her parents were intense, and I just started having some OCD. I was like, maybe I shouldn't have come. And she picked up on this, and I've been there less than 48 hours, and she's like, it basically turned her off. She's like, listen, we can connect while you're here, but as soon as we get back to the States, this relationship is over. There's no future here. Like, very abruptly. And I was like, what the fuck? And we talked. We had a very open conversation, and we made up, but it kind of put into play this insecurity, where I was like, because I think I have that, I think we all care deeply what other people think about us, but I think to do comedy, you have to care more than the average person, because why else would you put yourself up here for judgment unless you desperately crave the validation of laughter? You know, it's kind of unhealthy, so thank you guys for not enabling me. Yeah, thank you, I'm getting stronger every moment. This is how I recover. So yeah, it just put into play this big insecurity, because I felt, before this, I felt so sure that she was into me, and now, even though we made up, it was just, so I got back to this. The other thing is, I have to tell you this about Giannis. He's the fucking centerpiece of the family house. The porch is a big slab of marble. He's carving his own tombstone. What the fuck did I get myself into? So when I got back to New York, this was just like a month and a half ago, I was like, yeah, I don't know about this relationship. I don't know if this really has future. Because before I went to Greece, I was talking about her on stage and I was calling her my pre-girlfriend. And the same way you talk about pre-diabetes, you know, like if I don't make behavioral changes, she's going to turn into my girlfriend. That's what I thought. And when I got back from Greece, I'm like, yeah, I don't know where this is going. So, and then she came to visit me, so she's still in San Francisco. I'm here, unfortunately for you guys. No, I don't know why the self-deprecating stuff. I do know why, because it's an easy way to feel likable. So anyway, she came to visit me for a week, and it was okay. It was good, but it was like I still wasn't sure. But things have changed, and what changed for her, because I just wasn't sure if she was really into this, if she was fully committed. But she is now. And what changed for her is this. What changed for her, I can sum it up in 2 words. Ilias Goctis. Does anyone know who that is?
No.
Yeah, you probably wouldn't. You say that like you're furious. If you're going to throw out references, make them widely recognizable. Don't waste my time with obscure references. I'll tell you who he is. He is the winner of Greek Survivor. The winner of Greek Survivor. And so Anna, my not pre-girlfriend, she is very beautiful and in a very distinctive way, and dudes are constantly like hitting on her in real life, but also on Instagram. And Ilias Goctis, the winner of Greek Survivor, reached out to her on Instagram. And they were texting, and as she told me about it, she's like, you know, he's every woman's wet dream. I can't do a Greek accent. He's an 11, he's perfect. And I looked him up online, and he's just ripped, beautiful, rich. And so they were texting or messaging on Instagram, and she realized, this is what she told me, she's like, I realized at a certain point, I don't want Ilias, I want Adam. I'm Adam, by the way. She's like, who's this Adam guy? Can you introduce us? So she just left, she came back for another visit, and yeah, I think we're in this thing. The cool thing is, like, I don't know what's gonna happen with this relationship. I do know that I'm going to get my heart broken. Because no matter what, if you're truly vulnerable, if you're truly open to someone, it's gonna hurt. Like in some sense, I don't know what scares me more, the fact that the relationship, or the possibility that the relationship is going to end, or the possibility that it doesn't end. In which case, you just get deeper with someone and more vulnerable and inevitably get hurt in a million different ways, small ways, unintentional ways. But it does feel like, yeah, I've kind of manifested what I want, which is being able to be in a real open relationship. So, thank you. Having said that, it is an open relationship, so if anyone... it is an open relationship, but I think we're both, I don't know. Yeah. So that's where I'm at, and we're supposed to end a comedy set with a joke. So, any questions for me? I'll take one question before I leave. No? Okay. Should have figured out the dismount. I will say this. So one good thing is we share the same sexual fantasy, which is a threesome with me and her and another guy. Maybe, he's probably out of my league. Because I've had threesomes. I've had threesomes with me and 2 women, and I had threesomes with me, my girlfriend at the time, many years ago, and another guy. And the second type of threesome is actually, I enjoyed it more. And here's why. For me, part of the enjoyment of sex is seeing a woman like really in the throes of ecstasy, you know? Because I like that, it's kind of like comedy. Like I like the auditory approval. Like sex and comedy, both cases I can tell how I'm doing based on the noises the other people are making. So I like it when a woman is really enjoying herself. But getting her to that stage can be a lot of work. I'm getting older. Like honestly, I don't even really masturbate that much anymore. I would much rather enjoy the good sneeze. That's where I'm at now. So I brought this other guy. It was really just outsourcing. That's all it was. And he did most of the heavy lifting. I got into the good part. It was great, but there was one part of the experience where this guy was so my girlfriend was going down on me. This guy was just watching, taking the time out. He deserved it. But then he said this to my girlfriend at the time. He said this to her. He said, yeah, bitch. You suck that dick. You suck that dick good, bitch. I was horrified. I was like, what the fuck are you saying, man? Well, you suck that dick well, bitch. All right, guys, that's it for me.